Well, we are back. Thank you for hanging out with us. That was a little bit of a 2-minute break, and we appreciate you hanging with us. This is a long show for us. We are 97 minutes in, give or take, if you don't count the technical difficulties we ran into, and we're only halfway through The Last Jedi. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're hanging out with us, thank you so much. Please keep your comments coming in the chat, because we are, as you can say, we are definitely we're checking in with you. We want your thoughts on it. If you're watching on Twitter, thank you so much. We Twitter seems to be the place where people are checking us out, and we love that. The only thing is we can't hear your comments, so head on over to,
and we've got to figure that out, because I was helping our friend Greg with his NBA podcast halftime show last night.
Did you figure it out?
And he was able to see the comments, so we've got to figure out how to get our comments so that we can get those in there. So,
we help people, and yet
to be continued.
We have to figure that out. But if you're there, why don't you come on over to youtube.com/@the SSW Network so we can get your comments, so we can hear from you, and keep this conversation going, because we are about to get to, in just a few minutes, the Rise of Skywalker, my 11th favorite live-action Star Wars film. And I have some thoughts. I've been holding them on like for years, because I don't,
for a good long time.
I have. They might explode out. It might be an ugly vomit of thoughts. But we're not done yet with The Last Jedi, because of the fact, again, it was the most controversial of all the Star Wars films. And interestingly, so I think one of the biggest things is The Last Jedi became an opportunity for people who are using Star Wars to push a political agenda. Look, and I hate getting into that. I really do. I don't hate calling out the assholes, but I do hate calling it from a political standpoint, because it really is. People who decided to make this more than just a commentary on Star Wars have blamed Kathleen Kennedy, have blamed Rian Johnson and other Lucasfilm employees for coming at them and calling them racist and sexist if they don't like the movie. Nick, as you know, and if you follow me on Twitter, you saw that I literally reached out to both Reddit on the Saltier Than Crate I guess subreddit,
which kudos for a great name, by the way.
Fantastic name, but a bunch of assholes who are just angry about Star Wars. And I said, I would love to see proof that Rian Johnson called you sexist and racist. I would love to see proof that Kathleen Kennedy or anybody from Lucasfilm called Star Wars fans sexist and racist. And you know what? Nobody could show me any evidence that was done. What we did find one piece of evidence, and I wish I could remember who it was on Twitter. I apologize. I'm going to screw it up, and if I find it, I'll definitely call you out later. There was one point where Rian Johnson said that he was blocking people who came into conversations with a negative point of view, which frankly, I think if you want to have a good social media presence, get rid of that shit. Yep. But so there was this perception, there was this narrative that was created by Star Wars Theory, Geeks and Gamers, The Quartering, all of the people who recognized that during The Last Jedi, they can make money by being negative about Star Wars. They have found a way to monetize a dissatisfaction with the Star Wars trilogy. During The Last Jedi, they did that. They monetized and they amplified a bullshit narrative that Lucasfilm was going after Star Wars fans. And right. Eric Elliott says it here. They don't need proof. They believe it regardless of reality. And he's 100% right. Somebody told them that Rian Johnson said that if you don't like The Last Jedi, you're a racist or you're a sexist. And the reality is, here's the thing. And I saw this as a comment and I thought it was fantastic. Again, I wish I could say who it was because I can't recall. But they said, listen, if somebody's saying racists aren't allowed here and you get offended, maybe you're the racist, right? Yeah. If somebody says sexists are not allowed in this door and you are not, it's what is it?
Well, and I think this is important to bring up in this conversation. TW had a comment He said, important note from me. I was in the culture warrior camp right until I saw the vitriol surrounding Last Jedi. It felt like the mask started to come off, so I had to leave and took a long walk back. And that's something important to note. And that's important to be able to admit, where you were, to see a change, to see the, to recognize, oh, this isn't what I thought it was.
Yep. 100%. And so the challenge here and the problem is this began the culture wars around Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, and look, if you break it down and if you do the research, which I have done for the last week in preparation for this conversation, what it was an opportunity. It's the ugliest side of social media. It's the ugliest side of YouTube. And Nick, you and I talk about this all the time. Look, our YouTube channel, 1,000+ followers, not huge.
Right.
Our podcast is where we reach the most people. Which, by the way, if you're not following, please do so. Please click on like, subscribe, share, blah, blah, blah. But they figured out that because The Last Jedi hit during the, I'm going to say the T word, during the Trump administration and the challenges that presented to this country. Again, would love to take a stand. This is not the place for it. If I'm going to fight against politicizing Star Wars, I'm not going to do it here. However, we were in a spot where people were beginning to realize that there was money to be made in politicizing Star Wars. There was money to be made by having a negative attitude, by lighting the fire under the people who, hey, there's a black stormtrooper. There's a female protagonist who she didn't get to train with Yoda, but she somehow is a adept at a lightsaber. Again, as I said before, this is all hindsight problems with The Force Awakens. There is nothing wrong. Show me what Rey did wrong in The Last Jedi. What is wrong with Rey as a character? In fact, if anything, I would almost argue, as much as I love her in The Force Awakens, there are times where she's honestly a little bit annoying in The Last Jedi. She thinks she knows everything. She sounds like those freaking grifters. She thinks she knows everything about Star Wars. She thinks she knows everything about the Force. She thinks she knows what the Jedi are. She doesn't. She needs to be shown. So from that perspective, Rey is probably her weakest in these films. Yes, she moves the rocks, which again, brilliant writing by Rian Johnson, who early in the film says, you believe the Force is basically lifting rocks. And then
what do you think it is?
How does she save the rebellion, the resistance? She lifts some rocks. Brilliant writing. But again, I don't see any of the negativity, the toxicity, the things that are called out about this movie being based in any form of reality other than the fact that somebody is looking for something to be mad at and they feel like they were offended by Rian Johnson and they weren't. And nobody can show me the proof. Look, this is a call. This is a call to anybody watching, anybody listening. I'm even going to clip this out. I'm going to put it over on TikTok. I'm going to put it on a YouTube Shorts. I'm going to put it on Twitter. If you can show me the place where Rian Johnson called you sexist or racist, I want to see it. I need to see it. And I will change my tune and I will understand where you're coming from. But you can't. Show it to me and I will gladly look at it and respond to it.
Yeah. That's 100% it. And it's, what it comes down to is hashtag not my Luke Skywalker.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. People
and
are
why
mad
wasn't
that
it their
wasn't
Luke
the
Skywalker
story they wanted? Same thing with Book of Boba Fett. When Book of Boba Fett came out, everybody wanted Punisher Boba Fett. They wanted him to slaughter a bunch of people and be this cold, mindless killing machine. You think about it, what happened in Boba Fett? He beats the crap out of somebody in the first episode. There's a train heist. Like, he did most of that stuff. But guess what he also did? He had empathy for native species. And he had, there was feelings and there was humanity there. It wasn't 90s Power of the Force figure Luke Skywalker, the one that's jacked up with the muscles and the pecs.
Not He-Man Luke Skywalker, yeah.
It wasn't He-Man Luke Skywalker. It was tactical Luke Skywalker. It was smart, clever Luke Skywalker that went, it doesn't serve me to go up there and get shot in the face. It serves me to project myself across the galaxy, distract you, while the people that are going to win this war can get away.
Frankly, might be a little bit too intelligent for the Jeremies of geeks and gamers of the world. This is, and honestly, and this is the funny thing, as we pointed out before, this picture of Luke standing down. Yeah. The funny thing is, I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, there was some fan photo created of Luke holding Kylo Ren's head. That these are the same people like Star Wars Theory who wants to see more murdering of children in Order 66. Right. This is not Star Wars. And I hate to say it. Look, you saw it in the quote at the very beginning of this video. The quote from George Lucas is, "I made this for 12-year-olds and I want it to be entertaining." I'm not going to show my son Darth Vader ripping through and murdering children at in Order 66. And also, that's not Star Wars. That's not what it's about. It's implied that horrible things happened. And that's really important. If you're trying to tell the story of fascism and what's wrong with this world, you need to imply the negativity. But God forbid, you do not want to be showing, you do not want to be explicitly showing the horrible things.
That's right. And I think that, it was a controversy in a sense. It was, a time of the outcry started here. It wasn't what we wanted, which is hilarious because what did it say in the trailer? This isn't going to go the way you think. It's almost like you got a warning and you couldn't handle it. And it couldn't go any
And you missed it. You missed the warning, right? You chose to ignore
the
it.
Warning.
Yep. For sure. So, and I think though that this is the problem, and is that this began the controversy, which plays into Obi-Wan Kenobi. It plays into Mando. It plays into everything Disney Star Wars from this point forward, because people did not get the Star Wars that they wanted. They did not get what they expected. And again, this goes back to the point that I made before. If you don't get the story that you want, that's okay. In fact, it's probably better. If you're in a situation where you're able to predict everything that's going to happen in a movie or television show, why are you watching? Right? So Star Wars gave us this as we came into our next our next level of story. And I think that's what makes that's what made me walk out of it saying, I don't know if I like that. And finally made me come around to say, this is the story that I love. And again, let me just reinforce, Lucasfilm, there is no proof that I can find, and please share with me the proof where Lucasfilm went after fans, because they did not. They did not go after fans. They protected people. They protected decency, good, basic human decency. Kelly Marie Tran, Daisy Ridley, chased off of Instagram after The Last Jedi. That, I don't care if you like a movie or not. Look, I hated The Matrix 2 and 3. Sorry, come at me. But I will never go after the Wachowskis or Carrie-Anne Moss or Keanu Reeves or anybody who was involved in those films, because they didn't do what I wanted them to do. Hey, I walked out of those movies going, wow, I'm disappointed. Okay. It's stories, it's movies, it's what we see. So, Nick, anything to add before we move on to the third and final?
I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, there is so much in The Last Jedi, and we hit on it a little bit earlier on, but the Luke Yoda moment is so cool.
Yeah.
It's another callback to fans like us. You get Yoda, you get a little bit of serious Yoda, but then you get Yoda laughing at Luke because Luke's still, a little bit of I'm going to go burn this tree down. Haha, watch this. Lightning. Boom. Here we go.
Right.
But the thing that I have always carried from that, and probably my favorite scene in that entire movie, is what Yoda says about masters. We are what they grow beyond, because that's parenting. I'm a dad to 4 daughters. You're a dad to 2 kids. Like, I've worked, with teenagers for a long part of my career. Like, that's what you want when you're mentoring someone, when you're raising someone, when you're doing, I want them to be better than me. And when I saw that moment in the theater, it was a punch in the gut in the best possible way. I'm like, oh, damn, like Star Wars meeting me at the stage that I am now as a dad, not just the guy who was, when he was younger, all he wanted to see was Luke Skywalker facing down the First Order with a laser sword. I wanted that then. Now I get a version of that, but I also get something that speaks directly to the situation I'm in. And again, the layers of what Rian Johnson put into that story. And, you know, it just goes back to, you know, your comment at the beginning. J.J. Abrams likes making Star Wars movies. Rian Johnson likes Star Wars. Like, there's a noticeable difference in the commitment to that, which makes me hopeful. And I don't know that we're ever going to get it, but I long for the rumored, you know, Rian Johnson trilogy. Like, give him 3 movies and let him develop an entire segment of this. Because when we look at these movies and this sequel trilogy that we're talking about, one of the big picture things that I want to talk about at the end is the change from JJ to Rian back to JJ, like what that means for a trilogy of movies when you have a shift in vision from one to the next. Like, that's a significant thing too.
For sure. And I think that was one of the challenges of the Rise of Skywalker, which we will get to in just a minute. We're going to take one more break. Then we're going to talk about the final movie of the sequel trilogy as brought to us by Disney. And we're also going to talk a little bit about what this means for the future of Star Wars and the current state of Star Wars